Okay, in this video, we're going to set up our scattering on a different method. So instead of using density, we're going to set it up so that we can paint on the surface and then control where those trees are going to grow based on that. Before we do that though, let's look at our node setup we have, the object scattering using density. And there's one thing I want to go ahead and add to this because later when we set up our system to do multiple trees, you lose the ability to scale this object and control the objects on the plane. So I want to set it up so we have a number here with our other settings that we can control the scale and make that a little bit easier. So let's look at the scatter settings, which are right here. You may have named it something different, and that's fine. We're going to select that and then hit Tab to open it. And what we're going to look at is the instance on point, and we're looking at the scale. Now, at the moment, we are pulling the scale information from the tree to adjust the scale on our plane. But sometimes you can't find this thing, you have it hidden. And then when we do a collection, we're not going to have the option to pull the scale. So we're just going to fix this so that we have control in our settings here in the properties panel. So we're going to unplug the scale setting. We're going to hit Shift A and add a combine XYZ node. So this vector will plug into the scale. And we want to control all of these at the same time. So we're not going to control them individually. We're going to do it as a group. So we're going to hit Shift A and add a math node. So the math node will connect to the X, the Y, and the Z. We're going to leave this to add, and we're going to put the first number as 0 and the second number as 1. And 1 is the default size, and if everything is great, it's not going to change anything. If you need to change it, you'll have access here to the side. So I'm just going to move this over and move my group input down just to make it easier to connect. And I'm taking this bottom value that we type in as 1 and plug it in to this open slot. And that will be called value. Let's change that to master scale control. And once you've named that, we will hit Tab to go back out. And you'll see that we have master scale control right there. And we're going to plug that into our main group output here at the bottom. And if you want to organize this, and I forget if I showed this in a previous video, here are the names of all the sockets. Sockets are what they're called. I don't think I mentioned that either. And this little icon, if you click and drag, you can expand this out to make it a little easier to see this. And I would just like this to be near the top. So I'm going to left click and drag and put it above all the other scale numbers. So as I go down, the master scale is first, and then the random settings for the scale are after that. So we'll double check that this works. The master scale will allow me to change the overall scale. So if we look at the geometry nodes that we've created so far, we only have the one, the object scatter using density, and we're going to use this as a template to build the next one. So we're going to click on the two little paper icons, and that will make a copy. And let's name this object scatter using weight paint. And we'll talk about what that is in a minute. So now if we look, we have two different ones, the object scatter using density and the object scatter using weight paint. And at the moment, only this one is part of the library. So we're going to make sure we stay on weight paint. Let's go ahead and right click and mark it as an asset. And I want you to go ahead and do that because sometimes if it's not an asset or if it's not attached to something, if you switch out and make a new one, I know with materials this happens sometimes, it will delete it. So we want to make sure that this doesn't disappear. So make sure you mark it as an asset. So make sure you're on object scatter using weight paint. and we're going to look here at the scatter settings. Now, this node group is linked to the one in our other setup. If I change anything here, it's going to change it in the other one and mess up my settings. So I need to make a copy of this. And you'll notice there's not a button to make the little paper to make a copy like you have here. Instead, you see a number. The number means that this node is being used 2 places. If I click on the number, it will then make a new example or instance of this. Okay. Once you see that we have scatter settings.001, and we're not going to change the name, we shouldn't have to really worry about that. We're going to make sure it's selected by clicking on it and hit tab to go into the settings. So what we're looking at is the density settings. And right now we just have a number that's controlling that. Instead, we want something else that we can paint on that will control the location of the trees. So we're going to hit Shift A, and we're going to search for name attribute. So geometry read named attribute. And we're going to put that just here. Oh, I don't want it to connect to anything just yet. So I'm going to make sure it's not plugged into anything else. And we're going to unplug this value. And then we're going to plug in the attribute in this bottom slot. Now, we need to have control of what attribute is actually being used. And we typically type in the name of it, which we'll get to in a little bit. But for now, we just want this name socket to plug into this empty socket, excuse me, into this empty socket, and it's called name. So we're going to do a little work now to clean this up. Notice we no longer have density amount. So we want to go find density amount, select it, and hit the minus sign to get rid of it. Second, we want to, let me pull this up a little bit. Go to name. Oh, and this will be the vertex group name. And for the description, I'm going to put a note that it has to be spelled exactly. So here later, we'll make a vertex group. We'll give it a name. And for Blender to find it, we have to type in exactly the same thing. So I want this note here to remind me. So if I hover over this, I can see it has to be spelled exactly. Now that we have that, we're going to hit tab to go back out. And we want to take the vertex group name, plug that into the bottom of our main group output. So now let's take a moment and clean this up. You'll notice that we no longer have density amount. So we're going to find that here in the list of group sockets. Make sure that is selected, density amount, hit the minus sign to remove it. Then, just to make our life a little easier, I want the vertex group name just to be closer to the top. So up here where it says pick object to scatter, we'll just put it there underneath that. So that gives us all the settings that we need to use weight paint to paint trees onto our plane. So let's take a second and walk through this process of using weight paint so you can see how it works. So first of all, I'm looking at the plane and I'm going to switch to edit mode. You don't have to do this. I'm just going to explain this. So what weight paint does, it takes each vertex and it assigns it a value from 0 to 1. And I use a paintbrush to paint onto the surface. And as I paint, whatever vertices are in that area will receive a value based on what color paint it is or that I'm painting with. Excuse me. So let's switch from object mode to weight paint. And you'll notice that everything is blue. My understanding, blue equals 0. And at the moment, we don't have anything to paint on. So we're going to go down to the little triangle green triangle that says data. You'll see vertex groups. We're going to hit a plus sign, and we're just going to name this pine trees. Pay attention to how you spell it. I think it is capital sensitive, so upper and lowercase does matter. Spaces matter, so make sure you remember how you type this. Now that we have this, we're going to go to our modifier. We have our settings for our geometry nodes. Vertex group name, pine trees. Okay, so it's going to be pulling, it'll be pulling the information of what we paint to decide where the trees go. Now, when you're painting, there's a little icon here that's the tool settings. We don't really use this much, but this controls the brush and the colors. The only real thing that you need to look at is weight and strength. So weight means if you're at 0, it's going to paint blue. If you're at 1, it's going to paint red. And it does have a fall off. So it goes from red to oranges to greens to blue. So if I want to paint things red, having it 1 will paint red. If I put it at 0, it will paint blue. If I put it at 50%, it's going to paint the in-between, which is green. Now you can change the strength. So let's say that I had this set to 1, so it's going to paint red, but it's only painting at 10%. So then I can layer and just kind of keep going over it and slowly build it up to get more and more trees as it builds up more layers of weight to it. Last thing, you can change the radius of your circle. And the shortcut for this, if you look next to the letter P on your keyboard, to the right of it, you have 2 brackets. One bracket makes it smaller, one bracket makes it larger, so you don't have to come over here all the time. So this will allow us to paint some areas where we want the trees. So I'm just going to randomly paint, so I have some different values, some places that are red, some green, some yellows, and some blues. And this will allow us to paint locations for the trees. Now, let's take a second and switch back to the modifier tab. And when you do this, you'll see the red has not a whole lot of trees that you might want. I mean, it's more dense than some of these other places. That's why we have this density multiplier. So I can increase that multiplier, and then more trees are going to start being populated based on the number that we have. So you can adjust this to get closer to the effect that you want. So that is all the settings we need to change to set this up where we can use weight paint. In the next video, we're going to bring in our other trees and put them into a collection or a group, so that way we can paint, and then different trees from that group are painted onto the plane.